Alright, so kind of just woke up, but haven't even got out of bed much yet. So I've had something on my mind for a while that I'm trying to figure out how to enunciate on video format to record it. Honestly, it's something I've tried to speak about so many times, and that's like what I see so wrong about this world that we're in. The basically robbery and enslavement of all of humanity, and I would almost say this is a total destruction and theft and enslavement of our entire species. Basically, that's what I see this as, kind of. I mean, for the most part, like, our whole freaking species in large part is, I mean, people have different levels of potential and so on. I get that, and different proclivities, but at the same time, you're raised in such a structure that most people will never have an opportunity to, unless they're, raised in some super wealthy family and they inherit a bunch of money and they can just go do whatever the hell they want or whatever, and get away from distractions and figure out what the hell that is to begin with, and have the finances to be able to follow their dreams and stuff like that, then most people aren't going to have a chance to do anything other than just be an indoctrinated fucking drone slave to some pointless bullshit. I mean, from the time it's honestly, I think freaking psychiatry and psychology and psychiatry in a large part, which on some level may have, there was like a multi-purpose for that sort of shit, really. I mean, for the most part, the whole field was less about helping people than it was about controlling them. So that's how we've ended up in this system of control that we're in today, especially, is that, people did a bunch of research and study to figure out what was most effective, ways to control their slaves, basically, or whatever, or to manipulate people, Well, you don't think they all got, all these people were funded in their endeavors by super loving, generous people that really wanted people to be helped or something, because they just loved and cared about people so much? No. Yeah, dude, no. I mean, what I see in psychiatry, psychology, for the most part, the whole fucking field for the most part. Again, I have to, put in that for the most part, because I'm not saying there's not some slivers of good in there or whatever, but it seems to me like what we're looking at basically is like a system of coercion and control that has been instituted in every human society to rob people of their natural human traits and replace everything in their head and everything in their heart with some kind of falsehood to break people and then build them up and, It's just the Pavlovian conditioning process, basically. It's like, the ring the bell. I mean, seriously, look at the school system, for instance, right? I mean, why do you think they got punch cards to check in, clock in and clock out at schools? Why do you think the bell rings when you're supposed to go from one class to another, or a bell rings when it's time for lunch? They got fucking arrows telling you, oh, go this direction, go that direction. It's operant conditioning. That's the whole fucking thing. It's all about operant conditioning and beating the sense out of children at a young age so that they just become, to try to make them into just like docile and subservient, obedient, people that will do as they're fucking told. When the authority figure says do this, they say, they say jump and you say how high. That's what they set up the whole system to be, basically. And it's everywhere. It's in the school system. It's in the whole fucking government is based on it. The whole school system is based on it. All the fucking basic values of society are based on this shit, basically. But and I'm not saying, there may have even been a time where like a society could somewhat function and operate in that sort of a way when you're living in, if the people at the upper echelon of the society that are behind the levels of operant conditioning being applied to the people, have some sort of uppity benevolent objectives or something, where they actually believe that what the fuck they're doing is right, and they're actually trying to do something based on logic and rational thought, and if it's not like straight up malevolent and wicked and dark and fucking being implemented by crazy people, then yeah. That's another thing that's a problem with psychiatry, is that it's like the lunatics are running the asylum, right? What's going on in the world, and to be disturbed by the incredibly disturbing situations that we're being put into as people leaves us labeled as having a mental illness. It's not the world that's fucking screwed up and sick. No, it's the victim that's screwed up and sick. How dare they? It's not the person that kicks the shit out of their dog and screams at their dog and terrifies their dog until their dog is over in the corner fucking shivering and whining and not knowing what the hell to do and shitting on, pissing on the floor and stuff. No, it's not that fucking asshole's fault. It's the dog. What's wrong with you, dog? Do as you're told. That's the society kind of shit we're living in, man. We're being subjected to fucking abuses on so many fucking levels from the time that we're very young. Basically, it's like, it depends exactly where you grow up and what kind of people you're around. Really, I guess how young it starts. I was lucky that on a lot of levels, like, things were pretty chill, kind of, when I was like, preschool, kindergarten, first grade, so on and so forth. I didn't start getting like as much of the nasty fucking treatment from adults. They still had their, like, clown face painted on, the painted on smile, and the appearance that they gave a shit about me and they cared about me and were trying to do good for me. And then, after a while it just gets to be, you're gonna fucking do as you're told, me, It starts out with, "Oh, hey, honey, oh, you like to do this," and then it becomes this like, you know, gotta take the puppy outside. Be nice to the puppy. When, when the puppy's young, as the puppy gets older, you grab their freaking face and you shove their nose and shit. You kick the crap out of them and scream at them and you get the fuck out. Like, that's kind of how the system is set up, right? It's like, I mean, look at like the military and shit is another perfect example. Everybody like praises that as being some wonderful thing to like. I am, whatever, right? It's fucked up though. It's the same goddamn Pavlovian horse shit where you just takes the person and the nature of a person and abuses that person. In that case, they abuse the person to destroy the soul within the person to the point where they can get them to fucking pull a trigger and, drop a bomb on somebody in some foreign country without fucking a second thought about it, basically. Right? Because that's fucking perfectly reasonable and logical and rational and not at all completely batshit crazy and insane in the first place. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you think there's anything wrong with, massive wars and the fact that all kinds of weapons of mass destruction have been created all over the fucking world in massive numbers, if you think there's anything wrong with that, then you have some sort of a mental disorder and you need to be, reconditioned, don't you see? Right? Because you're the crazy one, not the people that are out murdering people by the fucking millions, right? Those are the rational, sane ones, you see. Yeah, the fucking axe-murdering psychopaths are the rational, sane ones that... Right? Because that's what we want humanity to be, so it can serve us. Who's us? I don't know, reptilian overlords, fucking, demon overlords, pick your poison. I don't fucking know. Something's screwed up down here. You look at what's going on in the world, it seems pretty fucking clear. I mean, if you really have the courage... That's another thing about psychiatry, honestly. And it's not just psychiatry, it's the type of conditioning that we're put under. Like, we are taught from a very, very... Like, especially, like, more and more so nowadays... Well, okay, actually there's like two things going on. That there's like two different strategies being employed on people. There's the manipulation of the emotionality of people used to make a bunch of people go fucking crazy. And then there's also, at the same time, there's this push to bury and destroy the rational and emotional side of the human being to turn them into something more along the lines of a robot. So there's like both of those things are being employed in separate regions for separate agendas and so on. So we've got sort of a mixture of fucking, people that are hyped up to be overly hysterical for one way or another, and then other groups of people that are propped up to be overly robotic in a sense, where the condition of the human soul is never considered, or the heart, the mind. I mean, at first people needed, people had. I mean, just look at the world that was built for humans. For look at the type of world that existed in like the ancient days and stuff. The beauty of the architecture and the art, and the culture, and so on and so forth. How and the sort of now there were some screwed up modes of teaching back then too. I'm not saying we should all go backwards and become entirely stoic and or whatever the fuck, right? I'm just saying that the the ones steering the direction of our civilization are clearly seem to be steering it to malevolent ends, to destructive ends. I mean, the same people that will tell us that we're supposed to, you will own nothing and you will be happy and eat the bugs, Those same people are like living in fucking, giant mansions on like a million fucking acre properties and stuff, man. I'm talking about like fucking supreme levels of like malevolence and greed and destructive tendencies to like, but they're not happy with self-destruction. No, they love themselves. They just want to fucking destroy everyone and everything else, because they're fucking psychotic or whatever, right? Well, I mean, look at us, man. Look at the state of freaking humanity, man. Even the sins attributed to humanity, the terrible, the bad, the wicked, the dangerous, or whatever in humanity, it seems to me, is something in a fucking major minority, like that's not really truly human nature, but seems to be more of an aberration, like you hear us being blamed for all the bad stuff in the world, and like in a sense you could say that was, I mean, in a sense you could say that humans are bad because look all the bad stuff the people did, right? But I mean, from my perspective, that's kind of like, it would be like if a herd of a group of ranchers or cattlemen rode up and put a corral around some cows or horses or something, and then rode up behind them shooting guns off going, yeah, and then fucking chased the horses through the middle of town, and the horses ended up fucking stampeding over people in the middle of the street. And then you said, well, see, look, horses are bad because see how they stampeded people. They need to be controlled, No, I mean, that's kind of what fucking happened to humanity. It's like there's people, or I don't know what, fucking some other species makes more sense, honestly, from my, I mean, if you really think about it, like, why would fucking human beings, and what kind of human beings would be, like, psychologically capable of that level of manipulation and would have that type of, power and resources at their disposal to be able to fucking manipulate people on such a massive scale, right? Or would even have the amount of time given a single lifetime to be able to come up with all this shit, or even 10 or 100 lifetimes of strategizing. Like, what kind of fucking people could pull this off, You don't think people can be herded like cattle? I mean, no offense, folks, but they have little cattle lines lined up at the bank. They have them lined up at the fucking Burger King. Like, go around the fucking... Stand in the ropes, everybody. The light is red. Therefore, you must stop. Those are the rules. Time for lunch. Ding, 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 ding. That's what the fuck we're on a fucking farm basically, and we're the cows, and we're like the human species is like, for the most part, like cows and sheep that are just being like bred for slavery basically. And it's very fucking obvious when you look around, and but people don't want to face that kind of shit because it's like obviously very uncomfortable to think about. And it's like, oh, dare you, I have control of my life, I'm powerful, and blah blah blah. But I mean, there's a lot of ways to rationalize it away and say, no, everything is okay. And because if it's not okay, I'm going to feel bad. So you have to convince yourself that everything's okay. It's like, we've all got like Stockholm syndrome for the most part, to the point where like it's just been persistently beat into our heads that we should love our captors, and it's not just... And I gotta be honest, man, part of the one aspect of the crazy, there's a lot of things like being pushed on us. It's not just like one specific group of control freaks. It's like, it's almost, it's like we're living in a world where there's like a whole, bunch of separate cadres of like cults that all have developed different modes of control and domination over the people, and manipulation and stuff. And you're dealing with like a bunch of these different cults like coming at you fucking from every angle all the time, all at once. Like, I mean, you got the government cults, which basically, a lot of that runs the schools and the fucking, workplace and pretty much every aspect of your life. That's why the stop signs are there. You gotta do as you're told and blah, 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 all this other shit, right? But I mean, it's like, then of course there's the religions. There's the, ones that pose as good and the ones that come right out with the evil, pretty much. I don't know. But in every single direction, you got systems of control, coercing our obedience and submission, and basically we're just getting pushed the fuck around left and right. And this society, this species that we belong to has been so indoctrinated and so put into a trance that, like, at this point, people trying to stand up against the system will just get fucking stepped on, basically. Like, to a great... Yeah. I mean, it's like... I mean, look at it. What's the fucking message in, like, absolutely everything here, including... And you could, yeah, it's the same with the damn Satanists. They fucking act like the Satanist bullshit is some kind of freeing thing that... Oh, it's about freedom. Do as thou wilt, I mean, come on, man. It's just, everything is like that, man. I mean, it always is like... It's like... one of the weirdest tricks, honestly, because it's like, you have freedom to get drugged and raped and fucked with and, diddled in the back room or whatever. That's freedom. Here, have some candy. Have some candy, little kid. Put on your fucking pentagram shirt. I don't know. Fucking people are getting fucking abused left and right, one way or the other, by a whole bunch of different types of fucking weird, creepy, like fucking van driving type motherfuckers or whatever, right? Like, that's what we're dealing with in this world, is like, cacophony of bad ideas and just wicked, deceptive, manipulative fucking people that are in positions of, and many of which totally believe in the righteousness of what it is that they're doing and they're taking part in, because they themselves have been brought up in this fucking cult mentality. So it's just like being passed on from generation to generation to generation. Like the Willie Lynch letter, the making of a slave kind of thing. That's kind of where we're at. It's like we're freaking, 10th or 20th or 50th generation slaves or whatever at this point. We're just like, now they got fucking like advanced fucking types of hypnosis and mind control drugs and fucking, putting chips in people's brains and fucking shit like that. And it's like, yeah, it's fucking, this is all good. Don't worry about it, anyone. Like, well, pretty much almost all as a species has been convinced that we're bad and we need to be controlled, and, when the reason why the species has done all this bad shit is because we've been being controlled by maniacs this whole fucking time, because we act like fucking sheep. I mean, that's how it starts, and then, they'll fucking stomp our ass into the ground because they're murderous psychopaths, and we haven't had that proclivity to be murderous psychopaths. We'll just, like, stand there, right? I don't know. Well, I mean, the problem is, like, people are, like, I mean, the actual nature of the human being, for the most part, is, I mean, you see it in children, it's fairly docile. I mean, for the most part, caring, playful, can be thoughtful. I mean, person can get into a defensive mode and try to fight to protect themselves or whatever, and can be made to be dangerous in that situation. But they're not. There's something else at play here when it comes to like the really true sadists and psychos. Something that I believe exists, outside the human family or whatever, or it's like, I don't know, whether it be some sort of demonic possession or, I mean, if I was going to try to look at this, if I was going to try to rationalize away all spiritual types of occurrences and try to come up with some sort of explanation of a physical sort to explain away all the spiritual things and try to, without pointing the finger back at humanity, then I'd say, okay, what about some sort of parasite or some sort of infection, or what about other maybe another type of human like Neanderthal or, you know, Australopithecus or something. Maybe there's some other. Maybe there's some other species, like essentially other subspecies of human that is just wired in a different way to be more psychotic and violent and fucking and controlling. That's like smart but evil or something. And that fucking thing's walking around, convinces the rest of us that it's like us or something, you know? Or maybe, I mean, shit. I mean, am I the only person that also, finds it strange that there's like mind controlling parasites and nobody seems to give a shit about it? Right? No, there are. I mean, what's that thing you get? Like, as you get, there's this like parasite that mice and rats will end up getting infected with this parasite that makes them like attracted to cats. So they'll put themselves right in harm's way, and the same parasite ends up spreading through the air, especially around people who have cats or whatever. It's an infection that's spread to like, I think, I don't remember the exact number, but it's like the majority of the people in the world have this, this parasite in their fucking brain. It's so common that it's like the majority of the population of the world has this parasite that's known to alter the perception and alter the mental faculties of human beings. So you would think that would be of some concern to somebody, but no, apparently that's just perfectly fine. Yeah, it strikes me as strange that, I mean, if you were like a scientist or whatever, right, that wasn't under the control of a mind-controlling parasite, and you discovered one day, perhaps by accident, that more than half of the population of the Earth was infected by a mind-controlling parasite, wouldn't you maybe think, how can we kill this fucking thing? Or something, right? And yet, I've not heard a peep about any intention to try and figure out a way to get rid of the mind-controlling parasite. Comes from the cat fecal matter, and yeah. Nope. Heard him. I don't know, maybe I'll remember the name of the crap. It's like, but that's just one of them. Like, there's a bunch of different types of weird parasites that are, mind-altering that... alters human behavior in a way that makes us more prone to taking stupid risks for no reason. Like, I don't know. And just, I don't know. They've studied people that have this mind parasite, and there's a notable difference in their behavior. I mean, call me crazy, but having some other species that's altering the thoughts and behaviors of the human species on the face of the earth, and that, being taken in conjunction with the direction the human species seems to be going in, which is fucking totally crazy. kind of leads me to think that, I want to look into that sort of thing, right? There's a possibility that. But clearly, people are being freaking manipulated and steered into bad behaviors for the most part. I mean, and it's huge. It's like a huge number of people are involved in this control structure that is just. I mean, probably a third, if not a quarter or more of the job. I don't. Yeah, I know. Just woke up, like I said. Anyways, like a huge number of like the jobs in existence, basically, though, are directly or indirectly, probably like half. I don't fucking know. Directly or indirectly involved in like different methods of control. Like, and there's a lot of fucking shit that's just here just to fucking hurt us, to corrupt us, to divide us against each other, to keep us fucking bickering, to keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated. They are turning our atmosphere into their atmosphere. Right? They're quoting from They Live now. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of snakes is under their lips. The palace, nothing but fear. And, I don't know. It's just. I can't look to religion as being like the thing that's going to free humanity either, though, because there seems to be this like weird spiritual apocalyptic sort of crap happening. I'm wondering like how much of that is a controlled thing, really. And we're living in a world that's gone so fucking crazy that, I mean, well, I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to point out the insanity of it all, like, from a logical standpoint. And the fact that you're not even allowed to speak of it as being fucking insane is, I mean, we have to build a temple because some people, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago said we had to build a temple so that the magic man in the sky can come down and save us. But first we have to do blood sacrifices and blah, 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 and we've got to convert fucking, the majority of the world to follow our doctrines and do as our ancient book says, I mean, just, yeah, it's fucking crazy. But I can see where there's clearly something to it. I mean, it's certainly a large fucking aspect of what's going on here on the planet, but it's not. I don't know what to make of it, though, It's, I mean, I still see the same sort of messages portrayed in religion that's portrayed in the school system, that's portrayed in the by the government and by the, Pavlov towards his dog and by the cattleman towards his cows, it's the same fucking shit. It's like, submit, conform, and obey. Do as you're told, or you're bad. Bad dog. It's taking a species that is. We are a species in captivity. We're in captivity. That's, true story, only species that has to pay to live on this fucking planet. That has to follow pre-programmed response mechanisms to know when they're allowed to go forward or when they have to stop or, oh geez, you know, we're just we're under like severe, more than centuries old methods of mind control, basically, that are being employed on us now in conjunction with new methods of mind control, which are fucking terrifying level, types of nowadays, like, especially. And you can see that, like, a major shift has occurred in the level of control that they've asserted over the people. The level of hypnosis that the people are under, for the most part, has gotten to a point where it's fucking downright terrifying. And you can see that so many examples of this. I mean, just look at... I mean, they were doing, like, mind control experiments, honestly, in the 60s, and a lot of the hippie uprising shit had to do with the government doing some fucking mind control experiments. But in some ways, like, that shit backfired on them, right? But, I mean, there were people trying to stand up and, speak out against the bad things going on, the wars and the corruption in the government and all this kind of shit, right? I mean, I guess. But a lot of that was, like, part of, agendas. It was manipulation. It was actually the seizing more control over the people in a lot of ways, but... I mean, where do you think all these pharmaceutical drugs for people to deal with depression and anxiety and everything is about? Aldous Huxley, he wrote, Brave New World, who was actually very much involved at the upper echelons of, like, the New World, early New World Order crowd. Yeah, dude, Huxley and Orwell weren't fucking warning the people. They were wargaming fucking plans for how to control people. They were like, in with the elites and shit that were planning the shit. That's why you look at fucking, like, crazy sci-fi shit and it all looks like it's fucking coming true in the world, because that wasn't just crazy sci-fi shit. That was that was them making a movie out of something that they were actually planning to do to us, basically, I wrote a book about a fictional example of, like, the sort of... It was, them wargaming plans for how to control the population, basically, is what it was. These, like, super rich people wanted to be, this group of fairly small number of rich people wanted to be able to keep the massive population of people under control so that they wouldn't rise up and overthrow them, and, they want to remain in control, because if they're in control, they get to keep their big mansion and all their fancy shit, and the people will all just be their slaves, and they can keep that going on forever and ever, and, until they replace us with robots or something, Like, that's where their heads are at, man. That's... If you want to say that they're freaking human or something, I mean, I don't know, man, but, I mean... Imagine, I mean, it would be kind of hard to be a good fucking person in that situation, really, honestly. Because, like, imagine that you grow up in a family where for the last fucking 10 generations, like, when you're a child, you're like, you've got servants around bringing you your food, wiping your ass for you. Uh, like, you can just be a complete asshole to the servants. You know, you could knock your plate off the table and have it shatter on the ground and then say, get over here and clean that up, or all of you on the street in a week, you know, and you could be like 5 years old screaming at an adult telling them to clean that up right now, or you're gonna have them fired or something, you know. Like, imagine like that level of just total reckless abandon of morals, and there's all kinds of weird shit going on at the house, you know. Oh, look, it's another party where people put on goats' heads and fucking have a bunch of prostitutes over and all this weird shit, like, and that's just, it's like a whole other fucking plant, you know, the way that they're raised, you know, you grow up in some little cramped apartment in the fucking ghetto somewhere, and they're like, they've got like 50 servants fucking doing everything they tell them to do, and getting, you know, piano lessons and private tutoring from some of the most intelligent people on the planet or whatever, and being taught how to, like, you know, command, you know, submission and obedience from people, and just, yeah, they're being taught basically from a young age how to control people like fucking, like you, how to train people like you train a fucking dog to be obedient, essentially, you know. And, you know, they raised in their giant castles and stuff, and, you know, like, they don't, and you think that people, like, you know, that grow up in that sort of environment have anything in common with you, like, that they can empathize with you in some sort of way, like, honestly, I mean, if they do, they lose all their fucking, you know, money, power, inheritance and shit, pretty much. Because their family will throw them the fuck out, you know. Like, go work at McDonald's if you want to be like with one of these peasants. You know. Just generation after generation of you know, training that they're, you know, superior and they have a right to dominate and control society and everything. And then the rest of us are just taught, like, obedience training from a young age, from so many different angles, from the church, from the fucking, yeah, the school, the church, the government, everything is obedience training, obedience training, obedience training, you know? And we're brought up in this world that's, and, you know, set up in such a way that it's just so unnatural to, I mean, you think about, like, say that, you know, you just look at, like, the crazy stuff going on in society, and take the technology, for instance, and stuff, right? I mean, where we're at now versus even, like, 150 years ago or something, 200 years ago. Yeah, you could even just say 100 years ago. I mean, 100 years ago, they had managed to develop, like, a lot of shit that for that time period, like the type of weapons of war and stuff that they had developed by then, had gotten to a point where it was like a whole new level of terror, that had previously not existed for, thousands of years, if not like never in the history of humanity. I mean, like, take war. You think I'm talking about there is like war, for instance. Like in the past, it would be like, of course it would be, scary and everything, but it's, men marching out on the field with swords and spears and axes or whatever, charging at each other, right? But nowadays, like, you can just get blown to pieces by a laser from space or something, or it's like watch entire cities go up in flames in like a second from, drones, up in space or whatever the fuck, basically. It's just like, or you could just be marching along with your, your rifle or whatever the fuck, and then pow, your head explodes because some guy was like, a mile and a half away in some fucking building with a, Barrett 50 cal or a fucking Lapua or some shit. Whatever, right? It's like, or you just fragged your ass with a freaking scoped anti-tank rifle or something, I mean, the level of technology leads to a greater degree of fear, certainly, because, like, the deck is stacked against people, Seems as though there's been a change in the power dynamic, kind of. I mean, it's just, yeah, the level of technology is pretty fucking horrifying. That's one thing that's way off, but then, like, the civilization, in times past, centuries or whatever in the past, I mean, the roads from, the even the poor villages were more quaint, like walking through an enchanted forest or something. And then the big cities were like these epic places of, intense architectural beauty everywhere. And the roads you traveled down were like taking a hike in the woods or something, basically, on some, trail through the forest. Like, it's a lot more fucking laid back kind of a life, and even though, there was, I'm not saying there wasn't some shitty things about the past too or whatever, but like, it wasn't anywhere near as fucking crazy as shit as now. I mean, there were bad things, but like, you have so many people that insist on trying to push the belief on you that things are better now than they used to be. which is, I mean, people have to convince themselves of that, and they have to try to convince you of that, because they can't have people wanting to break out of this, wanting things to change for the better. How dare you? It's already better. Everything's better. Look, the whole world's burning down now. It's better. It's better. They had the plague back then. They had roofs made of straw. They drank out of lead cups. Ah! So much better now. Like, whoa, they had roofs? Cool. Oh, you've got a better roof because you're a fucking bajillionaire. Cool, good for you. And the rest of us, can't have roofs at all because our house has to be up to code, which means that it has to be like $1 million for us to have it in the first place. So, so the massive portion of the population just gets to not have any home at all because it might be, structure might not be fit for us to live in. There might be mold somewhere. There may be some sort of faulty plumbing in the building that can't allow you to live there. Or whatever, right? That house is blue. You're not allowed to have a blue house on this block. All the houses are required to be brown. Your mailbox is 2 feet further away from the curb than is allowed by our regulations. You're not allowed to have a garden in your yard. We're living in this fucking crazy shit where it's like we have no... Funny, I don't see any zoning fucking people showing up to condemn the castles of the fucking Rothschilds and shit like that, right? Or I don't see them showing up to the fucking, ancient castles of the, nobility of Italy and shit. Like, hey, we've detected a bit of mold spores in here. You're going to have to... Yeah, I don't think so.
Your plumbing is atrocious. You're not allowed to live here anymore. We'll send men over to tell you you can't stay here. Like,
yeah, that's not gonna fucking happen. Right? That only happens to the peasants. I don't know. Yeah, they don't always fully maintain their old castles because they moved into, like, newer places and stuff. Well, I mean, you can imagine the amount of maintenance that goes into maintaining something like a castle, All the cleaning that has to be done. Are you talking like hundreds of years or more of like buildup of potential for like mold and dust and, so on and so forth. Not to mention, windows just being like a hole in the wall and lack of insulation and plumbing and all this other stuff. It's just a pain in the... I would imagine, want their wiring put in, or. It's not that they couldn't afford to, they just. It's easier for them with their resources to start over from scratch for the most part. I mean, but I do sometimes wonder if, like, one of the reasons why so many places are abandoned, like, what are people, like, freaked out by some kind of spiritual kind of shit going on in some of these old places, like haunting shit. Like, they don't want to live in some 200-year-old building because there's like 50 or 60 ghosts there or something. Or more, yeah, whatever. I don't know, man. I'm just saying, it seems pretty obvious that, like, the world we live in today is pretty fucking cruel and inhumane and inhuman. There's just seems to be this drive to dominate and control people and to I feel like I'm kind of unique because I guess maybe a big part of it is I just had a lot of time that I took along with my thoughts, and I was sort of anti-conformist from an early age. I resisted the conformity and all the shit in society, and I'll tell you, that's no way to get ahead in the modern world. Best way to get ahead in the modern world probably is just to be like if you can figure out a way to break out of their systems and come up with enough money to do your own thing, that would be nice, but if some brilliant fucking plan comes to mind right off the bat, you might want to just go be a slave drone like everybody else so you can hopefully get ahead in this world somewhat. It's just, it's not like they really teach us how to get ahead in this world. Like, unless you have some, like, outstanding parents that actually that's what you get a lot of the time. Like, you'll see these stories about the genius kid or whatever, right? They'll put some genius kid on some story on the news or something, or they'll be giving a speech at a TED Talk or something like that, And I think in a lot of instances, it's not that there's something that was so darn special about that kid. It was that they had people in their life that actually, supported and nurtured them and fucking taught them things that other people just aren't taught, because most people's parents are off you know, getting up with the alarm clock early in the morning to go to fucking work or whatever so they can pay the endless bills so they can stay stuck in the position they're in forever, basically. And they'll fucking, you know, pester their kids into doing the same thing, basically. And it's just like endless cycle of fucking lowered standards of living and poverty for a lot of people. Because the schools don't teach us anything, pretty much. Unless we're talking about the schools for the rich people. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's a huge fucking inequality in everything. If you're if you're some, you know, high level upper echelon person or whatever the fuck, you can just get, you know, organ transplants anytime you want and keep yourself living into your hundreds and stuff like that. You can get the best medical care, the best, you know, nutrition if you so desire. Live in an environment where you basically feel safe because you're well protected and have a lot of, you know, space between you and the scary peasants or whatever, right? If you wish. And it's just like I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, though. I mean, I'm in a situation where, you know, I don't have enough resources to. I mean, I have the intelligence, I think, to kind of extricate myself from this situation if I just had the financial resources to do so. I could get into a place where I could be a lot happier and fucking more fulfilled in life and so on. But shit's so expensive that it's not like it was in the old days where you could just, let's go get a job for a couple of years and then I'll buy a house in the country and fucking, like, no, dude. Go get a job for a couple of years and be in the same place you were when you started out because the pay isn't enough and the rent's too fucking high and, you know, you can't build up any fucking savings or, you know, anything unless you're making freaking, you know, to get ahead, to even slowly get ahead in this world, you'd have to be living in like really low standard, cheapest fucking apartment sort of shit you could find, or in your car. And then you'd have to be making minimum, you know, upwards of $30 an hour working full time. Just to like slowly, barely get ahead. Basically. And there's like, you know, nurses and phlebotomists and optometrists and, you know, people with what, you know, construction people and so on and so forth that ain't making that, they're not making that much money, you know. There's people with, you know, jobs that 20 years ago would have been considered like high paying fucking jobs, you know, where people were like buying big ass houses and boats and Corvettes and shit, you know, and still living high on the hog with stacks of money. And nowadays it's like even they're like practically paycheck to paycheck, you know, unless the inflation helped them out because of some old real estate investments or some, you know, shit like that, right? They learned how to game the credit system or, you know, whatever. I mean, from what I understand, and I've been doing research, like trying to figure out about like what some of these rich people are doing and stuff like that. And I'm hearing from some of these people that are like having some success in like real estate that were like, you know, celebrities and stuff, right? Like freaking Vanilla Ice and stuff's talking about the real estate market and building generational wealth and stuff like that. And he'll go on and on about like all the problems and like and this is a dude living in a fucking, you know, just jumping around from one mansion to another, right? And he's actually kind of struggling, you know, in a sense, right? Like, or his kids would be, right? If he's not, right? Because the system is so rigged to, like, rob people of everything they fucking build up, you know? I mean, really, yeah. The system is rigged. Is like a game that's set up to that most people don't know how to play the game to get ahead, and nobody's out there. There's very few people out there really teaching people how to play the game. And even if there are, the people that, you know, how many people are there that actually have managed to be able to save up enough money to even be able to fucking play the game, you know, in the first place. What it is, it's a fucking game. It's not fucking honest business. It's a honest investment. It's fucking juggling debt, basically. That's how a lot of these rich people have so much, is not because they worked hard and struggled and built up this money and then they invested that money. No, it's like they borrowed and 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 got other people to invest their money to give them more money, and they built up their portfolio by buying things with money they didn't have, right? And leveraged, you know, assets and financial resources that they borrowed in order to make more money, in order to do it over and over again. And that's like, so honestly, even a lot of people nowadays that have like, you know, their net worth is like $1 billion or something, but like if they died and they didn't have, you know, all kinds of like tricky schemes in place to pass money down to their kids or something, like their kids would end up with next to nothing. Because most of the money that makes up that, you know, $1 billion, they got maybe like $1 million or something in reality, and the rest of the money is just all like borrowed or, you know, leveraged assets or whatever the fuck, right? That allows them to do their, you know, real estate investing or whatever. And if there's a tax to be taken, it will be taken. If there's a lien to be put on something, they'll put a lien on. There's forces out there that just take everything from everyone that can be taken from. Everyone that doesn't know how to navigate that realm. If the freaking, if the loot is fat enough for them to give a shit anyways, especially, but I mean, even small level shit, people are getting, I mean, look at the majority of the population here, right? I mean, you got, I guess I should do a little more, like specific research and stuff to get this absolutely correct, but from what I can see, my just assessment from my own personal observation, out driving around, looking around, talking to people, so on and so forth, would be that, like, basically you got a very small number of people that have, like 99% of the money is like 1% of the fucking people have that, right? And then they've got, like, the government essentially works for them, for that 1%, as, like, bodyguards and watchdogs and, like tower guards, essentially, kind of thing, that, help to pillage the rest of the people and help to keep the peasants in line, kind of shit. And there's a lot of varying levels of, anyone, a whole huge portion of the population is involved in the system of command and control structure of society, as it were, from just, and a lot of this probably wouldn't be understood by most people, but it's not just like, government types, judges and cops and people that are involved in all that, agencies and everything that are involved in kind of command and control structure. It's not just that. There's also, like, the music industry and Hollywood and, and then there's, like, lower level, like, bureaucracy type of shit. And then there's, like, the pharmaceutical industry, the alcohol industry, the tobacco industry, just all these all the generators of mass revenue that keep people sedated and controlled. And then, of course, there's the various, layered structures of the job industry or whatever, which pretty much the purpose of them is to fucking, keep people busy, keep people distracted, and to, serve the super wealthy, basically. I mean, for the most part. It's, rich guy wants somebody to come over and clean his pool or install a 100-inch flat screen on a swivel mount on his wall or whatever the fuck. He's gonna hire the laborer to come do that shit, right? But it's like, we've come to a point in society now where the labor that, cleans the guy's pool or installs the pool or whatever the fuck, in a lot of instances might be, living in a shitty apartment or living in their car or something at this point, because just the level of inequality in finances and the level of inflation has driven up the cost of living so high that people that put in an honest day's work can't get ahead. Now, there's greater rewards for greater levels of distraction and, serving the overall agenda of society to corrupt the people and keep them distracted. So that's why things like, the people in Hollywood and the people, running the alcohol industries and the liquor stores and stuff like that, they're going to live, high on the hog pretty much, because the people running the fucking porn industry and stuff like that, because, they keep the masses distracted and even provide entertainment for the super wealthy elites. Now, honestly, one of the hardest things I have to that goes to stuff, the sort of stuff that goes through my mind. It's one of the most difficult hurdles for me. Honestly, is I would say that of religion, because I see this world and I see very clearly all the apocalyptic biblical seeming stuff going on, and I can see all the satanic agenda kind of stuff going on too and everything. But at the same time, I look at what's happening here, and it's all too strange and all too weird, and I find it hard to believe that there's some loving, benevolent creator that wants the best for us. But, well, I'll give you an example of what I mean, right? Take the dynamic of how God is portrayed to people by the followers of these religions, right? They'll speak in the same sentence about his supreme love and about how much they fear him and wish to be his slave, right? I just find that to be a very strange dynamic, I mean, it sounds more like the way you would behave towards, I don't know, man-eating dinosaur Godzilla creature or something, versus how you would behave towards a benevolent father figure, We must make a blood sacrifice so he will not eat us. Fuck. They must appease the god. It's just. I don't know. There's a lot of kind of disturbing imagery and concepts that I find in religion that. wouldn't exactly lead me to believe in the benevolence of it all. If anything, I would say religion and psychiatry. Now, there are different parts of psychiatry. There actually are some of them that have been like, seem to really be trying to figure out like how to help people deal with traumas and so on. Because I guess a lot of the people that get into it are like, or some of the people that get into that field are just trying to figure themselves out, trying to figure out, the kind of traumas and things that they had to deal with. So there are a number of people that have actually figured things out to a greater degree. I would say that Carl Jung, way ahead of his time. And there's other people that have looked into things. I don't know, but I think our whole society is like plagued by people like Pavlov and by this fucking type of operant conditioning and this, various methods being employed for mind control, basically. And, things like the Prussian education system or, whatever it is that's been put on us, It's just... like we're being robbed of our humanity and our, dignity, basically. And of like the real opportunities to come to know ourselves and our purpose and place in this world has been like hijacked by these people or things seeking to dominate and control us, to turn us into just like a bunch of servile obedient slaves, basically. To it's a big system, and they want you be a cog in the system or fuck off and die, kind of thing. It's basically the world we're in, and it's really fucking unnatural and really unhealthy for our species as a whole, and for all of us individually, I would think. It's like we're in a world where like the sociopathy and psychopathy are being promoted as sanity, and like rational sanity are being like regular, like actual more rational, like sane things and coping mechanisms are seen as like bad, crazy, or what. I don't know. It's just... but you could see very clearly, like, I mean, I don't know how old you have to be to notice like the change in people. And even a lot of older people won't notice because they themselves have lost that spark, which leaves them blind to it, basically. But if you held on to some spark of yourself, of your soul, your spirit, your soul, your, clear cognition, your observe your environment and so on, you can see pretty clearly that even just in the last 20 to 30 years, even, it's been a massive, massive change, not just to our society or, to our countries, but to the way that human beings relate to one another. It's like and that people are much, much more heavily conditioned and less free thinking and less, I would say, less human. It's like they've been turned, more people have basically been turned into robots, but it's not just, it's not, maybe that's a bad way of saying it. It's kind of clear, but at the same time, it's like, it's not entirely like that. A lot of people are just in that state because we're kept very busy, enslaved, having to do shit we don't want to do all the time, and we're offered all these coping mechanisms to distract ourselves from the misery we feel living in a world that's so unnatural and so fucking goes against our very nature, that and then we're told that we're crazy if we feel uncomfortable or like something is wrong here. So we're just supposed to, people find different mechanisms of coping. If you're very busy, you can't really don't really have a lot of time to research things, and if things that you might research might make you feel uncomfortable, and it's considered bad to feel uncomfortable and be unhappy, then you wouldn't research such things that make you unhappy and uncomfortable. You would instead choose to believe things that make you feel happy or whatever, right? Because you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? And I think, maybe to a certain degree, there is a little bit of truth in the concept of like this new agey shit saying that happiness is a choice, and all this kind of shit. But at the same time, it's also just it's another method of distraction and control over the people, because people are never going to stand up for themselves and recognize that something's wrong with the world if they allow themselves to be convinced that everything is fine. You know, like the house is burning down around you, and you're sitting there sipping your coffee, going, "This is fine." You know, because like you know, you mustn't freak out or anything. You've got to just look around and notice that the house is burning down, and don't reach for a fucking fire extinguisher. Don't do anything. Just say, "This is fine," because that's what we've been taught to do, right? And to do otherwise would just make us miserable. But and I don't know, man. There's a lot of different arguments for like thinking happy thoughts, like the Eckhart Tolle thing, the power of now. It's not that I haven't looked into that. There's a belief that there's these archon, or reptilians or something that some people go on about, whatever, method whatever word they want to use for them, whether they want to call them demons or archons or blah, and they say they're, energy vampires, feeding off of our louche energies or whatever. Like, I'm aware of all that sort of stuff, right? I get it. But, like, I don't know. It's just it's like the most common voices heard, and like, well, willing to discuss the fact that we're being, eaten by sharks. Will tell you, to just think happy thoughts while the sharks are eating you instead of, I don't know, trying to find a spear gun or something, Punch it in the eye. Right? I mean, something. With the nose, right? I get so sick of going out doing fucking menial tasks for money just so I can watch most, if not all, the money I made disappear at the end of the month. Just watch money just disappear, 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 paying these bills that are fucking ridiculously, just compared to the way that what they used to be. I know basically what things used to cost around here, and like, so I know like this shit doesn't fucking make a lot of sense. It's not at all fair. We're getting fucked. We're getting very, very badly fucking screwed. Like, you know. And I mean, I probably could have been in a much better position myself if I had just, gone along to get along and, let myself be screwed to a lesser degree in my earlier years. So now that now I would have maybe made it, to a much greater degree into a better position, right? But I mean, I was over analyzing things when I was young, and I guess I still have that. I still do that, but I mean, now when I look back, to my younger days, I start to think like, no, actually, like, I could have done okay. Like, of course, I don't know. I mean, nobody ever taught me anything. Like, would I still have only started building a credit score or anything by now or something? Like, just because I mean, a lot of people kind of luck into. I don't mean to sound insulting. I guess this does sound insulting, but like, we live in a world nowadays where it's like you're rewarded for being stupid. You're rewarded for not being observant and for being obedient and stupid and just doing what the fuck you're told and falling in line and that's what you're rewarded for. You're not rewarded for like independent thought or for having strong emotions or independent thoughts or thinking outside the box or challenging the status quo. These are not things that reward you, It's just yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that like our societies are, especially in the Western world, like we've been in the Western world. Like my observation is that so many of us in the Western world seem to be like either just bamboozled to an amazing degree where we're just sitting around waiting for somebody else to save us forever, or because we've been taught to believe in the imminent, you know any minute now is going to come and they're going to rescue us, you know whether it be the politician that you believe in or the magic man in the sky or whatever the hell it is, right? Something is going to come and save us any minute now, and therefore we don't have to do anything but just sit back and keep our mouths shut and think happy, happy thoughts forever while our countries are fucking stolen from us and our homes are burnt to the ground and everything goes to shit. We're just supposed to sit here and not do anything and not speak up and just fucking let all this shit happen in front of us, basically. Because vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord, or the government, or whatever the hell you want to believe in. Right? I mean, it's just. I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's a better, like a more. I could say that it's you could use the argument that it's a higher state of consciousness to be, to try and stay at a place of peace and to kind and loving and all of these things, these aspects that I think in many ways make us great, but at the same time it make us easy lunch for people that take advantage of our good nature. And I gotta be honest, when I think I've been in this like Eckhart Tolle state of being in the now and think happy, happy thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Don't look at the negative stuff. Just think happy things and try to focus on the positive and accentuate the positive. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be alright. All that positive thinking. And I mean, I can see. I mean, it's certainly a more. It's a nicer way to live. Be happier and everything, but. Well, I don't know, man, but if you look around, not just this country, but look around like what's going on in the different areas in this country and in other places in the world and stuff, right? And, historically, and I mean, really, the only thing you could even attempt to point to would be like, oh, Gandhi, right? But, I mean, how did that work out for him, And I feel like there are forces at work here. They're making us hate ourselves and hate our history and hate our ancestors and hate, you know, maybe even to hate humanity as a whole, but especially to hate our own people and to hate our own and to feel like we need to apologize for being who we are, or for I mean, they've basically got us like kneeling down and kissing boots at this point, like as a whole. And it's fucking disgraceful. I mean, look, even just in like the last, say, 20, 30 years or whatever, right? It was like, well, like, for instance, like when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, if I saw some chick with like, purple hair or something, she was probably like a rocker chick or a punk rock chick that was, listening to stuff about, listening to fucking Rage Against the Machine and, Metallica and, freaking, some punk rock about, down with the government, or some shit, right? And nowadays it's like, yeah. It's like it's all been replaced with this culture of people that think they're rebelling by supporting all the same things that the government and the corporations support. Like, how does that happen so quickly? But it's seen as like that's crazy. Submissive obedience is the new rebellion. I mean, it's just. I mean, there were so many people going up and down the street with like a psychological sense of rebellion against things that like they didn't even like to be. Like, you'd go drive out in the country, like, and you would see like pretty frequently, like, there would be like bullet holes in the freaking stop signs and speed limit signs and stuff. Because people would just drive by and like, fuck that, tell me what to do, Pretty much, like, probably about, like, the kind of mentality that would come from, right? Like, I mean, I get this, I definitely had the feeling, like, just from the way things used to be more, and the way people would talk more, and, like, in the past, like, if they tried to pull that fucking 2020 shit back in, like, the 80s or something, like, every freaking store that tried to make people wear masks or pull that kind of shit, like, they would have had, like, broken windows and graffiti all over the place, and, like, anybody trying to stand in the way of people going to the store would have been getting, like, punched out by grandma and shit, you know? It would have, it would just... It'd be like loggers and old ladies and little kids kicking them in the nuts and stuff, like, get out of the way! Just so weird. That it's come to this. Just keeps, like, hurling, rolling downhill like a snowball headed for hell, or whatever you want to. It's just weird when you hear, like, I don't know. I just wish things were different, or that I could just get the hell, away from the craziness, because, I mean, things seem to be going totally nuts, and it's not just the really young generations that have been fucking brainwashed by the schools in the last, 20 years or whatever. It's a lot of fucking people, man. The boomer and the old, I mean, it's just different, different recipes of brainwashing for different groups that seem to all be very confused and have no fucking clue what's going on, from what I can see, like, for the most part. And, sorry for saying that way, but I mean, that's the way it looks. And I'm just, like, basically trying to survive here. I guess I'm gonna have to, like, just go along to get along with the fucking, slave labor bullshit for money, and watch all the money disappear and get screwed. Either that, or, decide to go be a fucking homeless person or something, which is just the same thing to a shittier degree, Still have to make money to be alive, even as a homeless person, unless you want to get all your meals out of a trash can and be chased away from everywhere you try to sleep or whatever. This place is fucking cruel, man. But I don't know, I wish I would have just played the fucking stupid game and gone along with the bullshit more when I was younger. So hopefully I could have built up more money by now to be the hell out of the cities and out in the country somewhere at least. At least could have had maybe had a couple acres and a farm or something. Maybe I could have had some family. Because it's like if you're not part of the fucking system, it's like the fucking Matrix. It's like the very minds of the people we're trying to wake up, but until they do, they are all part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. Like basically, it's kind of like that. Like everyone. Like, even if you can start talking to someone that seems like they're somewhat awake, and then, like, it doesn't take long before fucking, Agent Smith pops up and I'm just like, I see you, Basically. Well, I gotta get back out there and try to chase the money down some more. Or knows they gotta worship the money all the time. And no other, place or purpose in this world but to chase the money so you can pay the bills that get robbed blind every month. And then if you dare to think outside the box, you can spend all your time alone, surrounded by people that fucking hate you, unless you keep your mouth shut and unless you're talking about football or Dancing with the Stars or whatever the fuck. You just gotta play a character. That's something like I can't believe I didn't even say that. Like that's what it is. It's like you have to play a fucking character. Like everybody's in character. Everybody's an actor. Everybody has to abandon their personhood, their heart, their soul, their spirit, whatever it is that makes them fucking human has to be cast away and thrown out and replaced with some character that is, built by this system. So it's like nothing, not a lot of real people anymore, They're out there, but varying degrees of consciousness. Well, I mean, for instance, example of varying degrees of consciousness would be a lot of people think they have this all figured out, basically. And just about the only research they did was, maybe they watched a few YouTube videos or something. Maybe they listened to a couple sermons or something. And they found the answer right away. They just someone's coming to save us. Don't worry about it, or whatever, right? I don't know. Years ago, I remember trying to make a video explaining the different facets of the trap. Like when you start looking into things and you start waking up, there's a bunch of different traps for the people who are starting to wake up and see through the bullshit. There's a bunch of traps. There's the There's the religious traps. There's the, right, of both supposed light and darkness, I mean, like, in Christianity is the, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, and uh, into the gate, narrow gate, and will be, it's like, the path to freedom, Jesus, right? And then the devil worshiper, those people will be like, tell you, do as thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law, and you will follow the, or whatever the fuck, right? And it just, and they're so, averse to society as it is, and they blame everything on the Christians. So their idea of rebelling is to, have, I don't know, pentagrams and Baphomets and do weird fucking rituals and, I don't know, just try to be as unnatural as possible or whatever. But it's just, and then of course there's the political trap. There's the religious traps and the political traps. There's the, like the systems of control that, they'll seek out those people that start to wake up and see through the fucking problems in the world, and they'll sort of try to divert you into, different camps or whatever where you could be useful in, spreading propaganda or whatever to support, to, whether it be left or right wing ideology, as long as it leads back to the, one of the two sides of the same fucking bird, or, two sides of the same coin. It's like, basically, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Professional wrestling would be a kind of a better analogy than the bird thing, honestly, because it's like professional wrestling kind of. It's like, you'll have two different characters, or two different groups of characters that pretend to be completely opposed and opposite of one another. But at the end of the day, they all go, and have barbecues with each other, and they all work for Vince McMahon or whatever, right? It's all part of the show, That's pretty much what the political thing is. Like, I don't know. And I've seen, as far as the religious stuff, it's like my issue with it. A big part of my issue with it is I've actually had personal experience with a lot of like supernatural type of occurrences, and it's also freaking strange that it doesn't seem like the work of. I mean, the good doesn't necessarily seem like the work of a benevolent, loving creator, and the evil certainly seems malevolent, but at the same time seems ridiculous. So it all seems kind of like cartoonish, like the sort of thing that would be programmed into a video game or something. And then other aspects of the strange that I see here makes me think that maybe we're in some kind of a computer simulation or something, if I had to try and, figure that shit out. But there's good. I don't know if it would add up to all-powerful and benevolence, though. Because why would so much, like, crazy evil shit be going on while an all-powerful benevolence is present? You know, for one thing. I mean, okay. Imagine let's say Hulk Hogan in his prime, all roided out, you know. Hulk Hogan in his prime. He's in the same room with Jeffrey Epstein and a 12-year-old boy. And Jeffrey Epstein starts trying to douche to the 12-year-old boy. And Hulk Hogan just sits back and watches, doesn't do anything about it. What would you think about Hulk Hogan then? Now let's change it up a little bit. Let's say now Hulk Hogan is omnipresent, benevolent, all-powerful, timeless, and all-knowing. Right? I don't know. Does he get a pass now? Like, I mean, for letting Jeffrey get away with what he's doing, right? Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just weird. It doesn't add up. I mean, Jeffrey was what, like, I have no idea, like, you know, looked like kind of a little skinny guy, right? You know? Hulk Hogan was what, like, you know, something like close to 7 foot tall, 307 pounds of freaking muscle, and, you know. I mean, in just that bit of difference there, like, you would think, I mean, pretty much anyone in the crowd, if you asked them a question like that, they would say Hulk Hogan would rip his fucking head off. Yeah! You know? Woo! Right? Well, fucking probably would, right? But, like, if he didn't, then you'd be like, he's a monster, he's a villain, right? How could you just stand by and let that happen right in front of you and you have the power to stop it, right? And people would, you know, boo and hiss and condemn him and want to have him locked away for, you know, being an accomplice to such horrible things happening or something, right? I pity the fool tries to do some shit like that in front of Mr. T, right? My dad could be mean, nasty, and cruel, and shit. He's in his like mid-70s now. He's lost most of, you know, a whole lot of his muscle mass and everything. But if he was in the same room with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein or something, doing that kind, Jeffrey was trying to do that crap to some kid, I think my dad would rip Jeffrey's freaking head off. Like, he would, you know. That's without any, omnipresent benevolence or anything, right? So as far as religious stuff goes, I don't know where I stand on that. Honestly, it's just it's too confusing because like, well, the truth of the matter is I can bring up questions about let's ask some ministers what they have to say and to answer the question or whatever, and then just pretty much almost every instance that they just start spouting a bunch of ridiculous fucking excuses for why God stands by and lets all the evil shit happen in the world, puts a positive spin on something. They say, well, according to this passage here, he loves you, and that's why he let your 5-year-old boy die of cancer, or whatever the heck, right? That's why he let Jeffrey run that island, because he loves you. You love the children, and he wants to see that they go to heaven, and, whatever the fuck, right? This, whatever. And it just doesn't add up, man. It's not mathing. But neither's all the weird satanic shit, Definitely not that. I mean, there's all the weird satanic shit going on in the world, so that's really fucking weird, is that there's that, and then the other, and then I don't know, I guess I'd probably be a little more likely to, sway towards the absolute faith and belief in a benevolent God if I was seeing, like, really evil, like, there's these really evil fucking people in the world, man, like really, 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 really freaking evil people, man. A bolt of lightning here and there, a sinkhole opens up and swallows them into the earth, I don't know, turn into pillars of salt or something, like, it'd be, okay, cool, about time, right? But no, but I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of freaking excuses you hear from people, like, Christians and other people. You hear the pagans saying the same kind of shit, that, like, oh, we're not capable of, we don't have the ability or any reference point to be able to identify, good versus evil without the book or without this or that. The pagans and Satanists will say that it just plain doesn't exist, that it's all gray. And the Christians will say that it doesn't exist without the book, which seems freaking ridiculous, honestly. I mean, I mean, how would we know that drinking the blood of babies was bad if it wasn't in the book here, you see? I mean, it's just like, I think I could have figured that out on my own. You know. A lot of us probably could have figured that sort of thing out on our own, I don't know, man. Just... if it is like a spiritual thing going on here, then it seems like God's hands are tied or something. I don't know. Well, I mean, there's varying degrees of things, but there's this hard set thing that everyone's bad and a sinner from the very second we're born, that comes in through religion, and I think that's kind of a horrible way for anyone to be treated from the day they're born, to be assumed to be bad from the get-go, that they have to be beaten to submission and bludgeoned with all this crap in order to not be evil. Or then to think that we live in a world where the people that, believe that shit actually have, a lot of control of a lot of the, financial and military resources of the world and don't do anything about the really fucking sick, evil fucking shit, the forces that are corrupting this world to begin with. I mean, not a single temperance movement in the United States. Not anymore for 100 years. Not. I guess I feel like there's just a lot of freaking hypocrisy. Which is not to say that, it's not true of a lot of people, but all the weird stuff going on in the world, I mean, could you imagine the kind of shit that, crusaders would be doing in a modern day? Right? At least that would show that these, somebody had, the courage to act on their convictions. To attempt to stand up against evil, I'm not saying that that's the, end all be all or the way to be or anything, but it's just like, I'd say it's less of a defeatist attitude than turning the other cheek and giving the thief who stole your sandals your cloak as well, and so on and so forth, and so on, you know. I mean, it looks to me like the religion itself is almost like a recipe for the way the religion is portrayed now is like a recipe for defeat, basically. And then to see people standing behind all these freaking there's been a lot of nasty stuff done in the name of religion. But it's kind of subjective, case to case basis, you know. When I speak of religion, I'm talking about the damn, you know, devil worshipping types too. They're just right out in the open with the crazy shit. Like, nowadays. Very emboldened. I mean, that's my issue with religion, man. I mean, I'm very drawn to it, and still, I guess I'm still kind of a believer and stuff. It's like something I can't shed up, can't be fully shed of, really, because it's like, you know, reaching out into the darkness for hope, and I know that there's something there, but still, it's like there's a lot of really bad things going on in the world. I don't know, I look at the world today, right, and it's like I'm seeing fairly good, strong people in mass being bludgeoned and bullied by pretty much evil weaklings. And it's not a good look for us, right? I mean, that's one thing that I'm, you know. And a lot of the bad stuff and the progression of the darkness in the world and all this kind of stuff is happening due to, you know, what was that Martin Luther King quote, you know? History will have to record the greatest tragedy of this period was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good. So I mean, I kind of look at this world as being set up in a time, place, and position where you see every other people, argue against this sort of thing. That I mean, the argument from everyone, from whether it be from Christianity, from devil worshippers, from whatever the hell, is that humans are evil and bad and they should be destroyed, and excuse me if I don't think that's a very healthy fucking view to have about our own species. Especially when we're looking at a bunch of terrible crap happening in the world that doesn't add up logically as being the result of human planning, It's like something else is steering the ship here, I mean, what type of group of human beings would just be out there like, hatching wicked plans to poison and enslave the masses and, foment wars all over the world and all this other crazy shit? That's not... I mean, can you see, yourself and you and your cousins getting together and going, like, starting World War III somewhere, or just for the fuck of it, or, like, meeting up in your fucking basement to hatch plans to poison everyone or something? Like, I mean, that's not normal fucking human behavior. That's some shit that's not human. And it's convinced us to blame ourselves for all the shit that it's doing to us by using us as cannon fodder and slaves to fulfill its goals. I mean, I'll give you an example. And people act so fucking weak and helpless because on an individual basis against such a massive, monstrous machine or whatever, we feel helpless and useless and stuff. And you can't fucking get people to work together and wake the fuck up. It's a problem. I mean, but I mean, in reality, like, imagine if everybody in the country decided that they're not going to go to work for the next week. Or if everybody decided to stop paying taxes, what the fuck do they do about it? Right? I mean, people do have an ability to have, if it wasn't for, like, sellout traders and shit like that, people do have an ability to stand up and fucking, take control of our countries and take control of our areas and stuff like that, because it's just like a few people sitting around making plans and pushing agendas through or whatever, but they don't fucking, they do hold the real power, but it's mostly in people's heads and shit, man. If people just stopped going along with their own enslavement, then it wouldn't be fucking possible to the extent that it is now, at least. Like, not even close. What are they going to do? Send Terminator robots to the private residences of 300 million Americans to grab us by the neck and push us to our job or something, to go flip burgers at Burger King or work at the factory or whatever the fuck? You know what I mean? And cops want to deal with that sort of thing? Like, maybe they don't want to go to work either. Maybe they want to get paid better. Maybe things just have to get ridiculously bad beyond the point that they are now. Because people are so fucking asleep that they still can't tell that anything's wrong here. The problem is, if people don't wake the fuck up before shit is like ridiculously bad, there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot of people left that have the resources to even be able to stand up for themselves. You know? I mean, is that what it's going to take? It's going to take the whole fucking middle class and upper middle class is going to have to like lose their homes and move into tents along the sidewalk or something before people start going, hey, something's wrong here. Do all the doctors and nurses and airline pilots have to be homeless before they start going, hey, something seems to be amiss? Like, the fucking Fortune 500 CEOs have to be, downgraded to fucking studio apartments or something? Or, living in camp trailers along the road or something? Like, does the economy have to get so bad that the police are like sleeping in tents in the fucking parking lot of the station or something? Like, is that what is that what the fuck it would take for people to wake up? Does the freaking, governor and the mayor have to live in their car? Like, Do we have to just be in a country where there's like, you know, a billion fucking empty houses and apartments and half a billion people on the street with nowhere to live? Is that how fucking bad it has to get? There's people living under fucking bridges with goddamn, multiple master's degrees and shit. I mean, that's not the most common thing in the world, but it's not as uncommon as you would think. There's people living in fucking tents in some parking lot right now that fucking used to own a fucking $3 million house or something. A lot of the people you see sleeping in their cars and in tents alongside the road used to have like a, high-paying job and a house and, 4 or 5 cars and like that's, but nobody seems to give a fuck, right? It's just like, doesn't affect me. Screw them. I suppose you don't mind that millions of illegal immigrants are coming into the country getting Social Security checks. Oh, why would you? Nobody seems to mind that there's like hundreds or, I don't know, what is it, hundreds? Is it thousands of people on like the Epstein flight logs and shit? That will probably never see the inside of a jail cell. Right? Nobody seems to notice or care that there's like creepy fucking people in black robes with pentagrams doing fucking satanic prayers in the state capitals and shit. Like, doesn't seem to bother the Christians too much, apparently. I mean, it's like, what the hell what does it take for people to wake up and give a shit about what's going on in this country and in the world in general? Like, for people to like, speak up in mass. I mean, don't you find it odd that there's like, I mean, I can't pretend like I'm doing such a great job talking here on YouTube or anything, but like, I mean, the social media is all fucking censored and controlled. YouTube, censored and controlled. But if you go on, any fucking platform, you could go on Odyssey, BitChute, YouTube, doesn't matter where the hell you go. You notice how few people are actually speaking out, seem to know what the hell they're talking about at all? It's like, yeah, there's like 3 people that I listen to sometimes. They're pretty cool. Right? It's like, that's not very many people out of all the people that there are out there. I mean, a lot of that's just mass censorship. But there's like a small controlled, or, certain amount of people that are allowed to speak. Or allowed to be heard. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's tens or hundreds of millions of people
speaking of the dark just like me and getting nowhere. Of course, I just mostly rant about shit, but I mean, I know there's a lot of people in comment sections everywhere, so it seems like there's a lot fewer people being, speaking up about what's going on in the world and giving a shit. I mean, and it's weird, like almost everywhere I go, like almost everyone I talk to, everywhere, if I try to bring up, like, hey, does it seem like things are kind of fucked up right now? Like, or whatever I have to say, start mentioning anything that's going on, and it just doesn't seem to, pretty much almost nobody seems to be bothered by it, and the ones that are just, can't do nothing, I don't know. It's like, this is all perfectly normal. Like, really? I kind of don't think so. Alright then, it's enough ranting.